The first night stayed in our apartments, and we went outside. We walked around Lake Ann, the Lake Ann Center, and there was chamber music playing. We heard crickets, and we thought, my God, what a fabulous place. Quiet, air's fresh, chamber music. The only thing we had to figure out is how did we get from Reston to DC to go to our jobs? So that was our biggest problem initially. Now, Reston was an ideal community with an ideal philosophy which embraced our philosophy of having diversity in all people from all backgrounds could live and work together. The issue is that Reston was located in the center of a very hostile community. Virginia still had the laws on the book that blacks and whites could not marry, and there's always racial problems. So we were confronted the fact that we were all together in Reston, but kind of isolated. One thing that happened initially is we wanted to get together with all the blacks so we know who was also out there, basically for camaraderie, and so we could discuss our different issues that we had, not necessarily with Reston, but just try to survive in a place that was located pretty, at that time, pretty far out. What happened is that caused us, or that happened, formed an organization called Reston Black Focus, which was able to do two things. It gave everybody support, and that if issues came up, at least you had a forum to hash it out. And we've been able to speak with a single voice, and we could meet with the power structure to get our point of view across. We were involved pretty quickly in the fabric of the community. I became chairperson of the Civil Service Commission, chairperson of the Small Business Commission. Later on, I was the former treasurer for Kathy Hutchins in her, Kathy Hutchins, who was the supervisor. There are issues that came up, but we found that we could meet with the, the chairman of Gulf Oil, who had the responsibility for developing Reston, the Martha Pino, who was the board chairman of the Board of Supervisors, and everybody was accommodating and very friendly and very supportive. Most of the whites, I would say, who moved out there, both out there, were extremely liberal. They moved out there for the diversity. Simply put, I think we felt very comfortable and very protected because we knew if something came up, we had a direct line to the police chief, to the developer, to the board of supervisors. And right from the beginning, they asked us to recommend people to go on the various boards and commissions in the Fairfax County. And I supplied them as names as fast as I could. I must have, but every day, I must have given them two or three different names. We were enjoying ourselves in Reston, and we finally figured out that what we wanted to do was get the message to other African American, other people of color, that they could move and enjoy themselves in Reston. And we developed the idea of having a Reston Black Arts Festival, which was kind of radical, I guess, in Virginia at that time. And at that Black Arts Festival was extremely successful. It was written up the paper, went on TV, and it began to get the word out to have other people of color, have different nationalities, to come out and live in Reston. Reston was built on several different principles. One principle was the fact that a group of diversified people could get along and work together. The other was that you could work in Reston and live in Reston, because they were trying to bring industry out there, so you really didn't have to travel. That was one of the theories. The other was that it had a situation where every cluster had its own board of directors and would manage, and then you have an overall community board, Reston Association, and that try to make people participate. Because if you knew the board had the authority to raise your dues or condo fees, in theory, it would get you to try to participate. I think the closeness of the group of people living together, us working together, caused us to think of Reston, the Reston as a family. So you grew up and you worked and you was in Reston, and you thought of it as really home, your extended family. You knew you could be helped by this extended family. Most people who eventually leave Reston will always tell you that their hearts go back to Reston and they feel more of a sense of community and family since they had lived in Reston. And the children who grew up are very close and feel very, very comfortable uh, with that environment that we had. One of the problems is that when they lived with their children, they would try to replicate the experience at Reston, and that was kind of hard to do. It's going to be a little harder in the future because today we have many more different cultures and nationalities to work with to try to keep this kind of camaraderie and feeling between the groups. Initially, when we first wrestled, it's basically the realization that we really were working with African Americans and whites. Still was interesting because at that time, no one believed that blacks and whites could get together and work together and live together as we did. Basically, we have Robert Simon's dream come true, the founder of Reston, that blacks and whites work together and live together harmoniously, and that this is a laboratory that everybody should try to replicate. For your edification, Robert E. Simon is one of the founders, the builder of Reston, and Reston gets his name from Robert E. Simon, Rob R. E. Simon, Robert E. Reston, Reston.